Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Proven Approaches for Raising SHEP Scores Through Veteran Engagement. My name is Bethany Christensen. I'm with Get Well Network and I will be the operator on this call. Before we begin, I want to take you through how to use the GoToWebinar platform. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you would like to ask a question, simply type it into the question box in your navigation pane, or you can click the raise hand icon. You can ask a question at any time during the webinar and we'll address them at the end of the call. If you experience any technical trouble, you can chat me directly through the chat function. It's now my pleasure to turn things over to my colleague, Dave Wright.
Okay, thanks. Really appreciate it, Bethany. Good afternoon. My name is Dave Wright. I am the Senior Vice President for our Government Services Division. It is my pleasure to be your host today. Today's webinar, as Bethany said, is Proven Approaches to Raising SHEP Scores Through Veteran Engagement. This is actually the first in a series of best practice webinars that we will be hosting over the course of this year. The purpose and the objective of these webinars is really to encourage and support optimal use of the Get Well Network tools, really to help support and drive priority performance improvement. Following each one of these webinars, we will have an associated or correlated case study that you can certainly request. Our next webinar scheduled will focus on fall reduction. In terms of our learning objectives, they're pretty straightforward. We're going to be increasing the familiarity of service management tools that are available today to you through Get Well Network Proven to Advance SHEP Performance Scores. We're going to learn best practices on how to use that functionality really to address very targeted performance focus areas. And we have a couple of case examples that we'll want to share with you that have really been used using different strategies to achieve significant movement in SHEP performance. I want to begin with a bit of context, much of this which you all will really already know. SHEP is much more than just about satisfaction. It really is a key measure of the overall quality of the veteran experience. All of our clients today are really focused on improving the veteran experience and therefore advancing SHEP scores, many with very clear goals for performance improvement. But it's important to recognize that SHEP is really a measure of the overall quality of care provided. 50% of the domains and questions measured measure the veteran's perception regarding the quality of their experience. My room was clean, staff were responsive. The other 50% are related to the veteran's perception of the quality of the care process. I was taught about my medications and pain was well controlled. So a few things to keep in mind. Veteran satisfaction is influenced by complex multivariate factors, and for that reason, advancing performance, seeing scores rise, is really very challenging. It's not easy to do, as you know. So as you think about your strategy to improve veteran satisfaction or SHEP performance, your responses to the following questions are really key. Are we effectively eliciting the veteran voice regarding their experience and satisfaction? And importantly, are we leveraging that data to drive performance improvement? Does my organization have a leadership and cultural commitment to service excellence and service recovery? Have we made service management an organization-wide strategy? I would submit to you that in order to truly drive change in performance and advance veteran satisfaction with their experience in your facility, service management must be an organizational strategy versus just an initiative. It must be dynamic and data-driven. The strategy must be designed to address both organization-wide and unit-specific priorities in veteran satisfaction. Above all, the facility must have a standardized, consistent service recovery process in order to see the desired results. Lastly, I ask you to consider that the responsibility for veteran satisfaction does not just rest with nursing or patient relations. The quality of the veteran experience is really influenced by the entire organization. In fact, we believe that the entire organization can effectively influence, but also must be involved in the quality of the veteran's experience. So, going back to my point, the SHEP performance is really a measure of the veteran's perception about the quality of their experience and the perception about the quality of the care process, it is important that your strategy address both. Our recommendation is that you leverage interactive patient care and the tools available in Get Well Network to obtain both real-time actionable feedback from the veteran about their perception of the quality experience, and that we leverage the tools within Get Well Network to both standardize and enhance the quality of the patient care processes. I submit to you that in order to truly drive change in performance, to drive veteran satisfaction with their experience in your facility, service management really has to be an organizational strategy. And that strategy must be designed to address both organization-wide and unit-specific priorities in veteran satisfaction. You have to have a consistent, standardized recovery process. And again, as I was saying before, consider that this responsibility is so much more than nursing or patient relations role. This really is something that the organization should really be tackling. So going back to my point that SHEP performance is really a measure of the veteran's perception about the quality of their experience, as well as their perception about the quality of the care process, it's important that your strategy really address both. So our recommendation is that you leverage interactive patient care and the tools available in Get Well Network to really address both the quality of experience and the quality of the care process. So in looking at your quality of experience, it's really very important to have the tools to obtain real-time veteran feedback. And when it comes to the quality of care process, really to leverage a more standardized approach to interactive patient care. And so we'll leverage the tools within Get Well Network to both standardize and enhance the quality of those care processes, such as medication teaching, pain management, and discharge preparation. So what I want to do is I want to lay out a roadmap for you to consider as you think about the approach or strategy that you put into place to improve veteran satisfaction and, of course, SHEP performance. Think of this roadmap as an overall structure for your veteran experience strategy and a guide on how to best combine the tools available to you to achieve the targeted levels you are seeking in SHEP performance. Our team will work alongside you to put this roadmap into place and to help you fully utilize and leverage the tools that are available to you to drive improved SHEP performance. We begin by identifying your priority areas of focus. Rather than boiling the ocean, let's look at 3 to 4 hotspot areas at the individual unit level and, of course, again, at the overall hospital level. Once we've identified your outcome priorities, we will align the right functionality that has proven to drive performance improvement in those targeted areas. The first priority is to address the quality of the care process. Get Well Network Pathways will facilitate and provide you a more standardized, consistent patient care process that are designed to optimize both patient outcomes and veteran experience. Once those care processes are in place, it's important to fully leverage the tools available to you, which we will describe momentarily. And then finally in this roadmap, we recognize that utilizing data and findings that come with that real-time feedback, not only for rapid service recovery, but also for trend analysis and decision support, can be used for both operational improvements as well as individual service recovery. So for example, what we will do is we will look at your SHEP scores compared to your VISN and national averages and identify, as you see in the red here, those areas that are your hotspots, so your priority areas of focus that you should prioritize, both in terms of veteran satisfaction, but also in terms of quality, safety, and length of stay outcomes. Remember, I said it's really about both the quality of the experience as well as the quality of the care process. So based upon that historical data and that comparative data, we'll select top 3 to 4 performance improvement priorities that we will leverage Get Well Network service management tools to drive rapid performance change. With both veteran satisfaction and quality safety outcome priorities established, we will then align the right functionality and tools within Get Well Network proven to drive performance change and ultimately advance veteran satisfaction with both their experience and their satisfaction with the overall quality of care process. In most cases, when it comes to improving the quality of the care process, as opposed to the quality of the experience, we're going to recommend leveraging our patient pathways. These pathways, as you see depicted here, provide a more standardized, consistent approach to care delivery in the areas that impact satisfaction. The two examples you see here are medication teaching and fall reduction in the form of safety management. Literature certainly supports that the more consistent or more standardized care process is across the facility, the better the outcomes and the more efficient the workflow. Our experience and data have shown that implementation of and use of these quality of care patient pathways really have had significant impact on driving improved SHEP performance in the domains in particular of medication teaching, pain control, discharge preparation, and overall satisfaction. The other half of the 8 domains are really about the veteran's perception regarding the quality of their experience, as opposed to the quality of the care process. Things like environment of care, room cleanliness, room temperature, quiet at night. Also staff responsiveness or nurse communication and doctor communication. In these areas, we need a way to obtain veteran feedback regarding their perception real time. So that, with that, we can intervene and complete service recovery before the veteran leaves the medical center. So GetWell Network is really offering 5 tools or resources that have proven to be very effective at facilitating that real-time feedback from the veterans that also enable rapid service recovery. First and foremost, these tools include our patient experience perception, or what we like to refer to as the veteran experience perception tool, which really elicits real-time feedback from the veteran on their satisfaction within any of the 8 domains. The second tool, and we'll show these to you, is the environment of care, or what we call How We Can Help. That really triages patient requests regarding their environment, such as room cleanliness, meal delivery, temperature, to the most appropriate department to address or correct any issues in veteran satisfaction. So for example, if a veteran is saying, my bathroom needs to be cleaned, they have the tool to be able to select that, and it would go to the environmental management or environmental services department for service response and recovery. We also, thirdly, encourage veterans to provide comments either through suggestions, compliments, or even complaints. We send this feedback immediately to the most appropriate person designated by your facility, not only for information purposes, but to follow up with that patient on those comments, so that we're acting on the information in a way that will quickly and rapidly improve the veteran's experience with overall satisfaction. We offer the vehicles for veterans to recognize staff, such as the DAISY program, to nominate nurses for that program. And lastly, we offer a real-time data collection and rounding tool that is used at the bedside to drill down and collect further information from the veterans about what's driving either satisfaction or dissatisfaction. This tool has also been used for leadership rounding, safety audits, joint commission audits, and really so much more. So let me take you into the experience itself and show you what these tools are really like. So this may be the standard home page or user experience for the veteran, and you can see that one of the favorite spaces is a place, tell us what you can think, where the veteran can actually respond to questions. We also can schedule prompts inviting the veteran to complete a survey or a set of questions for a particular day. Using veteran experience perception, we can ask any or all of the questions depending on your priority outcome focus areas and ask them to respond to that. There are basically 3 categories: great, okay, and not good. If they respond great, we encourage them to provide continuing feedback. If they're not so sure and say that their experience has been just okay, then we ask them what it would take to completely satisfy them. And of course, if the veteran is asking or is indicating dissatisfaction with their experience, that is sent then in via notification to the most appropriate person. So imagine if you were a veteran in bed and you were prompted, let's say at 0900, to respond to a question around nurse communication. And so if the veteran, let's say, responded just okay, thank you for telling us how you feel, but what can we do better? How can we make this much better for you and meet your satisfaction or meet your expectations? We also provide very immediate access, real-time access to veteran satisfaction in all domain areas. Within the executive dashboard of the management console, which is available in phase 1 of the interfaces, which is right around the corner, we do show the scale of how patients or veterans are responding to these questions so that you can identify using the red, yellow, and green where there are pockets of dissatisfaction either at the organizational level or at the unit level. And in fact, if you were to click on one of those red areas in this dashboard, you would be able to identify which patients on a particular unit or within the facility that have indicated dissatisfaction, offering leadership or nurse managers the opportunity to prioritize where they spend their time in service recovery. We also, in this same reporting tool, have the capability to look at trends over a period of time, whether it's an individual trend, so a patient can answer these questions as many times as they would like, and that real-time data is populated and updates that dashboard, but you can also look to see if their satisfaction is improving over time or staying the same or declining over time. We can also do this in a particular domain area for the overall unit or for the overall facility. I mentioned earlier that we also have a rounding tool that we call Marbella. This is a data and information collection tool with significant reporting capabilities that provides staff and leadership the opportunity to collect real-time data at the bedside. This tool integrates very nicely with that veteran experience perception tool. So we're either collecting veteran feedback through the veteran experience perception tool, the survey questions, or through the environment of care tool. My room is too hot, my bathroom needs to be cleaned, that how we can help feature. That veteran satisfaction then identifies where your hotspot areas are, either consistently or commonly across the unit or to that individual veteran. This rounding tool then is a supplement to this, and again is integrated with that data that comes from the GetWell Network system that allows you to drill down or to obtain additional information about what's driving that satisfaction or dissatisfaction. And so what I would say to you is this tool is, for example, if you're seeing a lot of concerns or issues related to room cleanliness on a particular unit, this tool is used to really find out more information about what is causing that dissatisfaction so that you can use it for decision support purposes. So the combination of the tool really give you very effective resources that allow you the opportunity to understand not only what it takes to improve the level of satisfaction, but what types of operational improvements are needed in order to sustain that over time. The environment of care tool, the how we can help feature, is a very cool feature. Most nurses really love this. It gives the patient, empowers the patient the opportunity to tell the organization what you need. So if the patient feels, the veteran feels their room needs to be cleaned, they check that in this very simple tool. What is it that needs to be cleaned? My bathroom needs to be cleaned. We then send a message to the patient saying you're about to send a message to the most responsible person for handling this request. In this case, it's going to go to environmental services. We want to make sure that the patient does want to send this message. And then when that happens, we work with those departments to agree on a service level response time. And let's say environmental services said that they would do 30 minutes. They would respond to the patient and solve the need within 30 minutes. Well, in 30 minutes, this prompt is going to come up saying to the patient, to the veteran, you told us that your bathroom needs to be cleaned. We try to take care of those issues as soon as possible. Has this problem been solved? And have we responded to your needs, to your satisfaction? If the veteran says no, not yet, it gets escalated to the next level. So those are the tools at a very high level. Certainly what I'd like to do is share a couple of case examples where these tools are actually being used. And I'm actually going to start with Wilmington VA Medical Center in Wilmington, Delaware. This is what we call their Outcomes Achievement Plan. Once we identify what their outcome priorities are and align that functionality, and they are using the tools and getting the real-time feedback, and that feedback is being triaged to the most appropriate person for follow-up and service recovery, the results are tracked here quarter over quarter. And I won't spend a lot of time on the details here, but you can see in the variance column here that there is a lot of green and in fact some double-digit and quite frankly some very significant changes in areas like room cleanliness and medication teaching and doctor communication and nurse communication. And really the difference here is that, one, they are using that veteran experience perception tool to collect real-time feedback. They are asking the right questions on the right units. They began by identifying what those priority outcome focus areas are. Remember the roadmap I shared with you. And the real distinction here comes in what happens after you collect that data. How do you leverage that data, that veteran voice, to really improve the experience through service recovery for that veteran? And so in the case of Wilmington, they have an interactive patient care steering committee that not only identified their outcome priority focus areas, but then selected the right tools, aligned the right functionality, selected the right questions they'd use for that veteran experience perception tool. Then members of that committee, because of the importance of this, volunteered, and each were assigned to a question, and they have the responsibility, they received notification through a group email as to what the veteran response is to this data. Once they receive that, they are then responsible for responding to that patient on that particular question within a defined period of time. And so it's the most appropriate person who is assigned to each question. So, for example, if it's a medication teaching question, the pharmacist on that committee would be assigned that question to respond to that question. Or if it's a question around doctor communication, it will be a physician or a hospitalist that will respond to that. The key here is that not only is the steering committee overseeing the use and the effectiveness of the Get Well Network tools, they have taken on the service recovery approach, and they have designed a system that makes sure that the most appropriate person is following up and doing service recovery with that individual in a very defined period of time. Then that committee communicates with each other on the service recovery process and the results of service recovery, and then those are evaluated when that steering committee meets on a regular basis. Very similar, Baltimore, similar kinds of results where they're seeing very positive change across all domains, has a very well-defined service recovery process. They are also using the patient experience perception tool. They used a multidisciplinary team to decide on what questions and when those questions would be sent to what veterans on what units. And so today, they are now doing 4 questions on alternating days. On the first day, 4 questions are sent at 0800, and then again, the next day, another 4 questions are sent at 0800. The veteran receives a prompt before these questions are asked of them to expect questions and encourage their response. And similar to Wilmington, they made service responsibility assignments so that the questions are triaged to the most appropriate person responsible for that aspect of care. So if it's physician communication, it's the hospitalist. If it's nurse communication, it's the nurse manager. If it's pain management or pain control, it will be the physician. Medication teaching, it'll be the pharmacy. So the veterans are given up to 825. The questions are asked at 0800. And then at 0825, we cut off the responses. And by 8:30 a.m., a real-time summary report is given to an interdisciplinary rounding team. And that report identifies those veterans who have expressed concern or dissatisfaction by question, so that the assignment is identified for which person to respond to it. And then when that interdisciplinary team makes rounds at 0900, those individual responses by veteran, by room, are reviewed, and service recovery is performed by the most appropriate person depending on the question. The assigned individual on the interdisciplinary team does the service recovery, and that process is repeated every single day, and the impact, of course, is very clear. And the last case example to finish up is East Orange has chose to focus on really 2 questions. Their 2 biggest hotspots among the 8 domains. And in this case, their Plaintree coordinator receives any negative response to both quiet at night and room cleanliness. Recently, they had environmental services to also receive these responses. And the process that they take here is that when a negative response from a veteran is generated, that goes to both the Plaintree coordinator for both questions, and if it's a room cleanliness question, it really is about negative responses for room cleanliness. So the common thread with all these case examples is that, first and foremost, there is a defined service recovery process. They did clearly identify their outcome priorities and focus areas. They then assigned individuals or teams of individuals to perform that service recovery. And that service recovery then is a very standardized approach and process. And then there is follow-up in each one of those cases to look at the impact of that service recovery process. So to finalize, what you're looking at here is really this roadmap. And again, to review at a very high level, we begin with identifying priority hotspots by working together with your leadership team. We align the right functionality proven to drive results in those areas. We begin by addressing care process improvement, medication teaching, pain control, discharge instruction, average length of stay. We then begin to collect real-time feedback through a variety of tools. We make sure there's a standardized service recovery process, and we do service management training. And then we utilize a variety of tools to monitor the impact of these things on improving veteran satisfaction and ultimately SHEP scores. So again, it is a complex approach, but it is an approach that's proven to be very effective by aligning both process as well as the tools available through Get Well Network. And as you've seen in just 3 case examples, and there are many more, the impact is quite significant.
Thank you, Dave. That was a great presentation. At this time, we will now take questions. To ask a question, go to the Q&A box on your navigation pane and type it in. Questions will be taken in the order they are received. If we don't get to yours during the webinar, please submit it during the post-conference survey, and we will follow up with you directly. All right, first question. Can we use different questions for different units based on the priority focus for each unit?
Yes, it's certainly possible to configure each of these tools in whatever way works best for your organization. Again, I need to go back and say the highest priority, the very first thing that you do is really choose those areas that are priority focus areas, your hotspot areas. And so once we know what those are, those can be tailored to each individual unit. Your med-surg unit may have different priorities than your OB unit, or your med-surg may have a different set of questions than your CLC. So there's a lot of different things that you could be doing. So we tailor the questions to the individual units. We tailor the functionality to the individual units to make sure that we are actually driving performance improvement in the areas that matter the most for that unit.
Okay, next one. How can we leverage the combination to improve operations? So how do these tools work together as it relates to operations?
It's a great question. It's really important to utilize all the functionality that I described today, and the reason that I say that is because what you're going to get there is you're not only going to get real-time veteran feedback about both the quality of their experience and the quality of the care process. You're going to be able to see what are some of the environment of care, what are the priority or most common needs that patients have or issues that patients have around environment of care. And then that rounding tool and the data that's available to you is going to really help you drill down a lot more to understand the causes or the root causes of dissatisfaction. So it's really the combination of all of those things that you'd want to use together, and then use the data analysis and the trending on that as decision support for operational improvements. We have a couple of other questions here. One of the questions is, will you make slides available for download? So we may share these, and absolutely. And the session is actually recorded as well. The second question is, we're seeing the capability of the veteran responding to a question. And so what I'd say to you, and unfortunately I can't read your entire question here. Let me see if I can get this. So seeing the capability of the veteran responding to a question was interesting.
Good feedback. Oh, I see one. Are each of the tools priced separately, or are they all included in the cost for Get Well Network?
Each of the tools except for the Marbella tool, are all included in the price of Get Well Network. Marbella is a separate product, and so we have the ability to price that separately. Here's another question. Seeing the capability of the veteran responding to a question was interesting. How does that actually happen? Is there an associated keyboard at the bedside, or does the patient use the pillow speaker or remote to navigate the alphabet? Typically, most patients are using the keyboard. There is a wireless keyboard that is at the bedside that patients can type comments or add detail or those kinds of things to that. It is possible to use the pillow speaker to do that as well. There's also, for many of our VA medical centers, have a all-in-one device that has a touch screen that allows you to bring up a keyboard, and you can actually type on that screen. So it just really depends on what the veteran is most comfortable in doing.
There are no more questions. At the end of this webinar, you'll see a survey pop up on your screen. It takes just a minute to complete, and we greatly appreciate the feedback. Additionally, we'll be following up with you to provide the presentation slides and the link to the webinar recording. This concludes today's webinar. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.